Welcome to Nug Live on the Answers 42 Media Network. I am your host, Dan Wetstein. I am with my co-host, Santiago. How are you doing, my guy? Been a minute.
Man, it's been a minute. You had the what was it last week? You had a power outage in
Yeah, they were
studio or
working on
something.
electrical.
Yeah.
Couldn't get up here for that. Then they found some potentially dangerous things in the walls. So I had to cancel a live on Monday. And then finally on Wednesday, they got whatever they found in the walls out. And I was back in here on Thursday. So, yeah, it's been a crazy week.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. What 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
It's
Because the
been
last
two
two
weeks. Yeah,
weeks
2 weeks.
I wasn't feeling good that first week, or
Yep.
wasn't feeling good. But but and then last week you had your thing, so it feels good to be back, man.
Yeah, most definitely. We're glad to have you back. We're here to talk about y'all's Nuggets. Let's go ahead and jump into this because we got a bunch of big things that have happened and we do believe will happen. First up, the biggest move of the offseason so far, and really the only move that's been made by any team. The Nuggets make their first move, trade JaMychal Green and a future first for a first this year and two future second round picks. What do you believe this means for the roster?
Well, I see it as the first test really for Calvin Booth as the GM. Without having to work with Tim Conley. This is going to be his move now instead of having Conley in his ear telling what to do. Because we all know Calvin Booth was more involved with the management the last couple of years than a lot of us thought. So for him to actually show what he can do, you get two first round picks and see what kind of moves he can make with that. I think it's a test for him and see what kind of GM he's actually going to be without Tim Conley.
Most definitely. I think this proves that what we believed would be the case is the case. We talked about once Tim Conley left that we believed in Calvin Booth. We believed that he would bring continuity. And no, is trading away a guy you've had for a couple of years technically continuity? No, but he's making a deft move, which is what is the continuity. Just like Tim Conley, he took an asset that somebody overvalued and got ridiculous return value on it. They took a guy that averaged just over 6 points a game and one rebound and got a first and two twos in return. Like, I
Yeah,
don't care about that future first that everybody's talking about. Oh, the Oklahoma City Thunder finessed another first round pick. It's like in 2026 or 2027, bro. Like, who
you
cares?
know, and
F
that's
them picks.
the thing with teams like the Thunder or the Magic, where you have all these picks and all these young guys. It kind of, I don't understand when people are like, "Oh, we got this, and that." Honestly, in hindsight, your team doesn't even know what direction they're going with. That's why you have so many young prospects because you're waiting to see which one flourishes and which one develops into that cornerstone that you're going to build around. So having all those picks and having that many young players, that I wouldn't want to be in that position as much as people make it seem as good as it is to have so many young players and so much potential. You got to remember what it is. It's potential. It's not guaranteed.
Exactly. I love that point that you made, and I will double down on it. The fact that I mean, it doesn't matter. None of what any of the y'all are talking about with them getting another first round pick matters because unless you're actually turning those picks into something productive, I will take the the path of the Nuggets just like the path of the Rams that are owned by the same guy. The
Yeah.
Rams just won a Super Bowl saying F them picks. I'm telling y'all right now, it is going to move over to his other teams. You are going to see it with the Nuggets. You're going to see it with the Avalanche. You're going to see it with the Rapids and the Mammoth. They are going to say, F them picks. Give us these superstars that are in their prime right now, and you can take all the potential that you want. We don't want potential. We want championships. That is what Stan and Josh Kroenke want, and they want it from all of their teams, not just one. They just got a taste with the Rams. They want it with the rest. They want to be able to be those owners that say that we are successful no matter what sport we're in. And that is where they are going with these moves, with these trades. And I do appreciate the likes. And how good will Russ be in year one? I am sorry, this is Nuggets that we're talking about here today. But I know my guy Amato likes to talk about football. So
Mm.
even though I don't know who you are, I'm sorry. I don't know why it's showing you as Facebook user. If you can give me a name and I know you, I will definitely give you a shout out. I apologize. I don't know why it's doing that. I've never seen it before. But real quick, since they asked it, since they're here, we'll give the fans what they want. How good will Russ be in year one, Amato? They haven't heard from you.
I think this team can at least be a top 5 offense. Now, I do think they got to mesh a little bit together. We need an offensive line, and that's the reason why Russell Wilson left Seattle, because of the O-line problems. If the Broncos can keep that O-line at least above average, I mean, not even that average. If you can be an average O-line and not fall back into the holding calls, I think we can. That will hold us up to that top 5 spot on offense. Now, we got the playmakers everywhere, but we don't need Russ getting hurt. That was one of his big complaints in Seattle. So it starts with the O-line, and everything else around him is figured out.
Yep, I agree. And I'm going to do a little something a little cheeky. You might not like this, but if you want to hear my takes on Russell Wilson, I'm going to drop this in the chat real quick. A little linky, little linky link. There you go. Click on that link right there and check out all of the last 4 Breaking Broncos podcasts. I have in-depth analysis on Russell Wilson on that podcast. So if you want to hear my take, go there and you'll get plenty of it. And
Yes,
she
sir.
said, I like Carmelo when yes, we all liked Carmelo when he was with the Nuggets.
George Carl didn't it? George
Yep.
Carl didn't like Melo.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Nobody, yeah.
What is your take on them bringing back Melo for a year, maybe?
I mean, if they get him on a good veteran minimum deal, like he's brought back on, a viable low deal, I'm good with it. Do we go out and give him 15, 20 million a year? No.
I don't think anyone does at
No.
this point.
At the I would, if anything, I would use that veteran exception that they got in the JaMychal trade, the 8.2 million. That's the max that I would give Carmelo Anthony. If they can keep him underneath that, I'm good with it.
Yeah, the thing about Melo is, I know he's older, but we're not gonna act like that ego ever went away. I mean, you saw he was out of the league for damn near almost 2 years because everyone knows how much of an egotistical player he is. Now, I think Melo still has a little bit of that ego. It's maybe a little more mature than what it was 5, 10 years ago. But if we bring Melo back, how is he going to feel with Nikola Jokic wearing that number 15? What number is Melo going to wear? What was it that he wore in L.A.? Was it 15 in L.A. or was he different?
I think so, but my thing is, how many MVPs has Melo won?
Yeah, let him know.
And that ends the conversation right there. How many MVPs
you gotta let him know.
Won, homie? Jokic gets to keep that number, and you don't get to be angry about it. You get to pick whatever other number you want. You can take it from just about anybody other than maybe Jamal and MPJ, but any other number you want is yours, but 15 stays with Jokic. Even though I do believe Jokic is that kind of guy, he might give it up if Melo really wants it. He's just that good of a guy. I think he might.
I wouldn't mind if Jokic pulled a move like that and then went on and wore another number, and become the second player in NBA history to have 2 numbers retired. I'm all in for that.
I wouldn't be mad at that at all.
Kobe had his 8 and 24, the first player to have 2 jersey numbers retired. Mm-hmm. Now, this is just hypothetical in a different universe we're talking about. But if Melo was to come, or say another player who wanted 15 and Jokic was to give it up, I'm guaranteeing you we're seeing 2 jerseys in that rafters that say Jokic on the back.
Without a doubt, brother. I'm right there with you. I'll take that bet all day, every day, right with you. No problem. I'll put the house on it.
What's funny is we were just talking about the draft, and I was looking through some mock drafts these last couple of days, and they have a Nikola, I think, Jovic. So if you just replace the V
and Jovic.
Now, how awesome would that be?
Yes.
To have 2 of those guys on the same team.
Yeah.
Now, literally the same name.
If you do a mock draft and send it to me, I will get it posted on the website.
Yeah, you want? Yeah. All right. I'll send you
a little bit of analysis on each pick. I'm down with it. I would love to have that.
I'll send you one. I saw what the Nuggets are. I don't know if we're doing this later on the show, but I saw what they are looking at. Some of the guys and a couple of guys I think they should take.
That's the last thing on the rundown is the draft.
Oh, that's the last. Oh, my bad.
No,
I don't want to. My bad.
Don't go
My
too far, but yeah,
bad.
a little teaser
You
ain't
know,
bad.
I've been spending the last day or two looking at mock drafts, so I'm just so damn eager to let the world, Nugs Nation, know
So
where this team needs to
I'll
go.
give you an angle that we can go in that won't go too far, and this will actually tie into our first little topic here. What do you think the JaMychal Green trade means for the draft?
Well, it means big. It means big for us. Are we going to keep, like you said, F them picks? Are we going to F them picks, or are we going to keep them? I think at least you made that trade for a reason to open up cap space. But also, this team has been undermanned for the last year and a half. And you're going to have to acquire players through free agency, through trades, through picks, any way you can acquire players to improve this team's depth and improve this team's bench. I think you're going to have to make. I don't see them dumping the picks. I see them actually going and Calvin Booth relying on his scouting, on his scouting department, and bringing in some, good players like a Bones Highland from last year, some young players where you don't have to trade for them or sign for them, where you can develop them in your own system and they can be productive players off the bench.
Yes, I like it. I like it. So, speaking of moves in the roster, it looks like Uncle Jeff Green, is expected to pick up his player option. Does he still bring enough pushing 40 to justify
Mm.
those numbers that he's about to accept?
Everyone's not LeBron James. Be 38 years old and still doing the things that LeBron's doing, even though I think he's taken a step back. But Jeff Green being 35 and to average 10 points per game still, that the guy's worth a lot, not just for what he brings on the court, but that veteran leadership, that mentality he can bring to the locker room. You need a guy like Jeff Green, who he reminds me a little bit kind of as a Udonis Haslam. He's a player
Good
coach.
comp.
Now Udonis Haslam, I don't he hasn't played any games, but he's still getting paid from the team as a player. Honestly, just a player coach. But you need those heart and soul kind of guys. And Jeff Green, I know he's been to 11 different teams, uh, your typical journeyman throughout his career. But every stop he's had an impact on that locker room, on that team. And I think for the Nuggets to at least bring him back, and I feel the same way with DeMarcus Cousins. You bring those guys back, those guys who've been in the league and who can teach a lot of these young guys how it's done when it comes to playoff time. You want to keep those guys as much as you can.
I agree. And the beautiful thing about Uncle Jeff is it's not up to the Nuggets to bring him back. He has a player option that he is going to exercise. And I love the fact that you brought up the fact that the band averaged 10 points per game, also had a half a block, half a steal, 1.5 assists, and 3 rebounds per game.
And that's
That
only
is
playing 20 minutes a
insane.
night.
Yeah, 24, just under 25 minutes a game is what he's
Okay.
playing.
Yeah.
So,
And if you can bring, like you said, half a block, half a steal, 10 points per game in 20 minutes of play,
and 3 assists.
if you look at that per 36,
Yeah.
that 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 jumps up his stats really high. And if he was to
Yeah,
start,
that would put it somewhere towards like probably somewhere between 16 and 18 points a game.
see,
Like
and
if he's playing a full starters minutes, like and at 35, and then his shooting splits. He's shooting 52% from the field goal, 62% from inside the paint, and 83% from free throw. So
yeah,
like the dude makes shots.
you need those
And
veteran leaders. You need
yeah,
those veteran leaders.
yeah, and
And
then again, we gave you the tangible production, and what Santiago's been talking about is that intangible, that locker room presence, that veteran presence. Because as you said, he has not been on the same roster 2 years in a row since he was in Boston from 2010 to 2014. So
yeah,
2014 was the 2013 2014 season was the last time he was on the same roster 2 years in a row. That's a long time of bouncing around. So I think that alone is why Jeff Green is picking up that player option. He wants that continuity, and he saw what this team was able to do without Jamal Murray, without MPJ, with just the greatest center in the game today. So I do believe he wants to come back. Bringing him back makes absolute sense. So next question was, should Nuggets look to move on? Looks like we both agree Uncle Jeff needs to stay, and we both agree that he needs to stay. Am I right?
oh, definitely. But like you said, he's been only three teams in his career where he's actually spent 1 to 2 years. Like you said, it was Boston, Memphis, and OKC, I believe.
Yep. And Memphis, he didn't spend 2 full seasons. He got traded mid-season from Boston, and then spent half the season with Memphis, and then went over to and then spent the next full season with Memphis. So
And then
yeah,
bounced out, huh?
yeah,
And bounced out. Yeah. Well, Jeff Green, he's a unique player because there's not a lot of guys. Like I said, there's not a lot of players like LeBron James who can play damn near 40 and at a high productive level.
and
Now,
still play above the rim.
is Jeff Green prime Jeff Green? I mean, I don't even know when he was prime Jeff Green because he's always played in so many damn
Probably
different
in
uniforms.
Boston. That's where
Yeah,
he averaged
Boston,
the most.
17, I think it was.
Yeah, 17, 15, 16 in the 3 years he was there, and then was averaging somewhere around a steal and a block per game and about 5 assists. So that was pretty much his prime.
And he's far from that, but he's far from being prime, but he's not completely washed,
No,
He's
and I
not
mean,
completely washed. He can still give you a guy who can give you 10 points per game off the bench. And that, when you think about it, he's only spending, like you said, 25 minutes on the court. That's some productivity. And played 75
efficiency on
games.
top of it.
He played 75 games. I believe that, and he only missed
Yes.
7. So he's not injury prone. I mean, maybe at this age, knock on wood, can happen anytime. But
Right.
he's still going to be able to give you 9 in and 9 out, a solid 25 minutes, and you need that.
The only thing I wish that Jeff Green would let go of is his hairline. Like, bro, like I understand, like mine's receding, it's running away from my face, but bro, you got literal bald spots all over your head. Like, please let it go.
I
We love you,
was,
Uncle Jeff. We just love you a little bit more if you were bald.
yeah, sometimes you just gotta, Jordan did it, Kobe did it, LeBron,
Right.
it's time, LeBron. Another one, I don't
Yes.
know, he's trying too hard. I don't know where you get these, I thought Just for Men only, dyed the color of the hair. I didn't know it brought it back like a chia pet. This guy over here, he got a cul-de-sac hairline.
It's just like, bro, just let it go.
Yeah,
Just
we
let it
we all
go.
thinking the same thing. Just let this elephant out the room already,
Right.
please. But he trying to keep him in. You
Exactly.
got man, you gotta let it go.
I think the only thing we haven't really touched base on that makes Jeff Green so valuable is his versatility. The man
Yeah,
can play the power forward, small forward, or center position, and can guard all 3 positions still at this late uh, stage of his career. So, Jeff Green, definitely valuable beyond what any of you believe. So, Jeff Green deserves to stay at the number that he's at. He doesn't need to take a pay cut. They don't need to extend him to get him off to get below the salary tax. The Nuggets are going to be a salary tax team. I know that Nugget fans are used to having broke owners that are terrified of spending money. Well, you don't have to worry anymore. Stan and Josh Kroenke, they have all the money in the world. They don't care. They just want to win. They don't care about the luxury tax. They don't care about any of those things. As long as they are winning, they will spend, period. So, moving on from those and into new rumors from the Nuggets to have interest in multiple trade targets. I think this is more of the lane that we're going to go down with the Nuggets this offseason. But there's always a chance that things could change. But to me, trades I think are going to be aplenty. And let's go ahead and dive into what we have as the possibilities. First up is Will Barton, a possible deal with the 76ers here. This first deal, there's a couple of deals that have been floating around as possibilities. One is them trading on draft night, picking up a kid plus Matisse Thybulle. I think I said his name right.
yeah, Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah, Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, and I think a future first. Crap, I just lost it here. Or yeah, no, this year's first. So Danny Green, Matisse Thybulle, and the number 23 overall pick for Will Barton. Do you think that's a viable trade? Like, would the Sixers give up that much just to take on Will Barton?
Yeah, I saw that earlier today when you sent me the rundown. And the only person I would really want from Philadelphia would probably who I would desire the most is Seth Curry. Just as abysmal as this team's shooting has been without your stars, you have no 3-point shooting. Now I don't know the possibility of giving up Barton for Seth Curry. I don't know if the salary cap matches. I don't know if it's possible. But that deal you just said with Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, who we just got done talking about, Jeff Green. If you bring Danny Green in, that brings more veteran leadership in the backcourt. Now we have veteran leadership in the front court from Jeff Green. If you can bring a guy like Danny Green, who's been there, done that, won championships in San Antonio and in LA, who's been, a perennial six man year in and year out. If you can bring that guy off your bench, then shoot, man, you got two veterans in Danny Green and Jeff Green. They both share the same last name. For them to be dominant on the court as veterans, I mean, I think that's one of the pieces that this team needs, let alone from the defense and three-point shooting. Danny Green brings you veteranship and that smooth, silky shot.
Yes. And to me, honestly, I think I like this deal a lot better than the other one I've seen where the Nuggets would have to give up Will Barton, first round picks, Monte Morris, and a bunch of other things just to get Thybulle, Green, and a future first. This one makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
I like Matisse Thybulle simply because he is the epitome of 3-and-D. That is what the Nuggets need. They need defense. Barton does not give you defense.
No.
You cannot convince me that this man is a two-way player in any aspect. He is all offense, and that is it. He has no other gear. So I think swapping out Will Barton, who is an offensive threat that, every once in a while he gives you that threat to go off for 30-plus points, but the Nuggets don't need scoring. The Nuggets have scoring in droves. They just need to stop people. And I think the combination of Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle on the back end, both the front and back court, strengthening that defense while adding that sweet stroke of Danny, plus the 3-point damage that Thybulle can do when he's hot. Plus you get the number 23 overall pick, which gives you 3 first-round picks, and you give up no draft capital in return. I would take this in a heartbeat. This is the trade I'd take. The other one I've seen where they're giving up first rounders and Morris and stuff, nah, I don't want it. Now, as far as your Curry question, I think that's more of a trade involving Monte Morris. I think that the Sixers would rather have a Morris in return. Maybe Morris and Najee for Seth. That would be more viable, but I'm not 100% sure that the Sixers want to move away from such an efficient three-point shooter. So I just don't. I have not heard anything that Seth is on the block, but you never know. If somebody brings you an offer you can't refuse, then I mean anything can happen. But as of right now, I really haven't heard much of anything of Seth being on the block at all.
Well, I feel that first deal where you throw in the 23rd overall pick and you have two, Danny Green in his heyday, he was a 3-and-D player. I think he's more just now of a three-point shooter. But you bring two guys who are essentially 3-and-D players, you throw them in the package. I mean, I feel like they godfathered us in an offer we couldn't refuse. If that's for Will Barton, for a guy who is
all day.
He's been a cancer for this team, not consistently, but he's always a cancer to this team when they need him the most or when it's the worst possible time to be that bad of a player, be that bad of a decision maker. And it sucks because when you see Will Barton at his peak talent, and he's looking like the thrill out there.
Yep.
It's unheralded. It's something that this team needs when we need it, when we actually need it in a game, a game 4, we're about to get swept against Phoenix. We need that spark of energy. In a game 5 against the Warriors where they had an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter, we don't need someone making terrible decisions, costing us points and turnovers like that. Will Barton, it was nice knowing you. I do believe he's going to be gone, though.
Yeah.
It was fun while it lasted, but when the times we needed you the most, you did not show up. You were Patrick Swayze. You were Ghost. And it just sucks that it has to be this way, that you're not going to be a part of something special anymore. But, it is what it is. And now with the Monte Morris thing, a rumor is Monte Morris is only going to be dealt in the package if it's to increase the value for Will Barton. If it's a thing where, Nuggets can trade Will Barton without trading Monte Morris, then they'll do that. But if they have to throw Monte Morris in the deal, in the package to get the trade that they want, they'll do that. So we'll have to wait and see. I would love to keep Monte, but at the same time, he's a liability on the defensive end. And I do think that even if you were to throw Monte Morris in that package for Thibault and Danny Green for the 23rd pick, I wouldn't mind it because you're honestly getting, I think we win that trade.
Yeah, I agree too. Danny and Matisse plus number 23 overall, which gives you 3 first-round picks that you can either keep and take in a very deep draft that everybody's talking about how deep this draft is, or take those and flip them for a superstar, or even maybe just one of them plus another player and get somebody like an OG and an Obe or
Mhm.
something of that nature. You know, you definitely win that trade. I don't see how anybody could look at a trade like that and say the Nuggets didn't win. Because even if Will the Thrill becomes that and reaches his potential with the 76ers and Joel Embiid because he gets more minutes or whatever, fine, whatever. I don't care. He's not helping the Nuggets win a championship. He's just not, for the reasons you pointed out. He does not know how to recognize when he's having an off night. When he has an off night, he tries to shoot himself out of it
Mhm.
instead of facilitating and maybe hitting an Air Gordon with an alley oop or Zeke Naji open in the corner. Instead, he's sitting there doing his stupid dribbles and running out the shot clock instead of trying to make plays when he knows he's on an off night. That's the most infuriating thing about Will Barton is that he can't acknowledge when he sucks. And
Mhm.
everybody sucks sometimes. And you're not going to have your A game every single night. You're not going to hit every single shot. So you got to recognize when you're off instead of just trying to shoot your way out of it. Try and facilitate to guys that are shooting well that night, that are making shots.
You know,
Facilitate to them instead of trying to be the one man show that you are not.
the thing with Will, I think why he does that a lot is, his favorite player growing up was Kobe Bryant. Now, if Kobe had a off night, he's gonna shoot himself out of that. But there's a
But you're not
problem.
Kobe.
That's the Black Mamba, and Will Barton's more like a garden snake.
Yes,
You know,
right. I like that.
we got Kobe Bryant over there, and then we got Toby Bryant over here. He over here trying, he over here trying too much,
What are you
and
trying to
you
make me
gotta.
give a spit take?
I almost got you, didn't I? But you trying too hard, man.
Almost.
Like it's to the point to where it's frustrating that he should have some better self-awareness. If you're having an off night, that's just how tonight's gonna be. He's never had a night where he starts off cold and then heats up. I don't know. He might have started off hot then got cold, but he's never been the other way around. And what has he been with the Nuggets for 8 years? And there's been 8 years of that. Each season
Right.
you can go through a game where Will Barton has been completely terrible and he doesn't recognize it and he just keeps shooting away. We can't have that, man. We just can't. And we have to, as the Nuggets, they have to move on.
Yes, I completely agree. I think gave him plenty of rope.
Mm,
They've given him all the chances, all the ability to try and take that next step to become that star, let alone make the next step to a superstar. So yeah, it's definitely time. Barton's had his moment here in Denver, and he needs to go somewhere else. Maybe a fresh scenery or whatever will get him to reach that potential. But I'd much rather have somebody else take a chance on that potential, as we've talked about.
mm.
Give me the guys that are going to produce. I want production, not potential. At this point, especially with how wide open the championship window is in Ball Arena, go for it. Go all in. This is the off season for the Cronkies to finally go all in. No more um, I'll just say it, pussyfooting around. Just go in. Just get it. Let's go.
Yeah. You know, Barton, like I said, it was nice knowing you. It was fun when we had Will the Thrill when the Nuggets were a terrible team and they did not have nothing to cheer for. Didn't really, Nikola Jokic, I think it was his rookie year, maybe. And no one thought Nikola Jokic was going to be what he is now. You had a team that, what was it made up of? Emmanuel Mudiay was thought to be the future of your
Yep.
franchise.
Yeah, he was
Um,
supposed to be the point guard of the future.
you had Randy Foye. I'm not bashing these guys, but when
No,
I say these names, you don't think playoffs. You don't even screw
most people won't even
championship.
know who you're talking about, bro.
Yeah, Randy Foye. Who the hell is that? This is what the response you're gonna get. Who the hell is that?
Exactly.
Yeah, as much as I liked him, you had Darrell Arthur. No one knows who the hell Darrell Arthur is. That sounds, Mr. Arthur sounds like a fifth grade science teacher named Darrell Arthur. You wouldn't think that's an NBA player.
Right.
So when Will the Thrill was on that roster, it was something for us to cheer for. I just like the names I said. You don't know any of these guys. Then Barton came with his energy and his flash and his flair. He got the Nuggets and was in the dunk contest one year. It was probably the first
Yeah.
somewhat national recognition the Nuggets had got before
In a long
Nikola
time.
before Nikola had got to the point to where he is now. The Nuggets didn't get a lot of love. It was a big chunk of time where the Nuggets did not get that national recognition. And Will Barton gave us that little dunk contest for a minute. He was a fan favorite, to say the least. But as time progressed and this team's turned into a contender with three max players on it, Will Barton has turned into that. Things were good. Now the relationship is sour. He's
Yeah.
trying to
It's
spark
just
up
one
the
of those things.
relationship, but it's never going to get back to how it used to be because he does not know how to be a, a player on a winning team per se.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like that summer fling relationship. You get in it. It's hot. It's heavy. It's fun. But then after a few months, you start seeing the things you don't like. You don't,
Yeah.
you see that they leave the door open when they take a dump. The little weird things that you just like. Okay, this isn't going to
Oh
work
man.
out. The relationship has run its course. Let's move on to the
Uh,
next. You know.
and my wife, she gets so mad when it's emergency. I got to use the bathroom. Now I don't numero dos and keep the door open, but I
Right.
numero uno.
Hey,
And
dude.
she and
Sometimes it's an emergency, bro.
now I won't do that with company, but if it's
No, of
her,
course not.
it's that door doesn't exist. I'm going straight to
It's
the
like,
toilet.
you just saw it last night. Don't be mad now. So,
Yeah, yeah. All of a sudden you're mad. All of a sudden you mad. Yeah, like I said, it was numero uno, not numero
right.
dos. Okay,
That's too
okay.
much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I
So,
got you, brother.
but it's the
So,
perfect comparison right there, though. It's like a summer fling relationship. How it's been with Will Barton.
yeah, yeah. So, speaking of the next trades with a possibility of a Will Barton and Monte Morris, there's been a lot of hype around OG Anunoby. Why can I
Mhm.
not say this man's name? Is he a viable trade target for the
Mm.
Nuggets? Do they have enough to get a guy like him?
Well, I can tell you that when you make a Christmas list as a kid, and you think of that first thing that you want, and you write it. OG Anunoby, he's on the top of the Nuggets Christmas list. The first player they're thinking of right away. Now, do they have enough? I think they do. You might have to throw MPJ in there. I don't think the Nuggets are willing to do that just because MPJ, we want to see where he's at coming back from that injury, and especially after we gave him that max deal. I don't think the Toronto Raptors are going to be wanting to pay that. But I think in some way we would have to throw MPJ in that deal if you get
Yeah,
if you get OG Anunoby. Now, say we have a deal where you don't throw Michael Porter Jr. in. You're obviously going to throw in Will Barton. Maybe the two first round picks you just got, you might want to trade those. And then you might have to throw Monte Morris in. Now, I think they might want Bones Highland. Now, that might be a risk. Giving
yeah,
up Bones Highland for OG Anunoby. And OG Anunoby is established. We know what he's going to bring to the table. Bones Highland's ceiling, he's barely even scratching. He's not even touching the surface
no,
of his ceiling. And Bones Highland can be another all-star for this team. Seeing what he can do, he has a long wingspan. He can be a 3-and-D player or he can be an all-around player. And I'm not willing to give up on Bones Highland after what he showed us in the playoffs. I'm not willing for that. I know
no.
OG Anunoby is on our wish list. He's on the top of that. He's the first name on that Christmas list. But I just, in reality, I don't see the Nuggets really making that deal. I want to. Now, never say never. It's not a type of thing where when we talking about bringing Seth Curry here, it's not that unrealistic.
Right.
But I think it's more on the side of not happening than actually happening.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that OG is going to be just outside of their reach. I like with you. I'm with you on everything, even including being hesitant about Bones. Like I'm cool with throwing Barton and Monte plus maybe one or two ones and maybe one of the twos that you just picked up. I honestly do believe that the Nuggets are nowhere near done with trades. I do
Mhm.
believe they are going to make at least one or two more big trades. I'm not talking about more JaMychal Green type trades. I'm talking big name trades. I
Yeah.
do believe that they are going to go after a super big fish to pair with Jokic and Jamal Murray. I do believe MPJ might be the guy out if they have to give up somebody young. I
Mhm.
would much rather give up Michael Porter Jr. than Jamal Murray. I
Mhm.
have much more faith in knee surgeries these days than I do back surgeries.
Yeah.
Back surgeries never seem to work out. I've watched my wife and how it's degraded with her. So I know exactly what back surgeries can do, both positive and negative. So if I'm having to choose between those two, I'm going to take Jamal Murray all day and give up MPJ, even though I do hate the thought of them selling low on MPJ. I feel like if you're going to trade him, I say let him reestablish that trade value. Let him come back and trade him somewhere in the middle of the season if you feel that you need something more. I don't like trading him in the offseason because they're going to get lowballed
Mhm.
because of those back injuries. But if he comes back, he balls out for the first half of the season. I think they could get another superstar at the midpoint of the season. So I would rather see MPJ stay on this roster at least through to the trade deadline next year. But if you have to sweeten a deal, I would I would much rather use MPJ to sweeten a deal for somebody like Damian Lillard than I would an OG Anunoby.
Mhm.
Like if you want both Morris and Barton plus a first rounder, I'm cool. But once you start talking about MPJ and Bones, I'm out.
Yeah. The thing with MPJ is if he balls out, increases that trade value. We've seen MPJ at his most elite level. Now he's not doing it on a consistent nightly basis, but it's not Will Barton bad where he has an unbelievable game and he disappears for like a week and a half.
Yeah,
MPJ when he's at his best though, when he's at his peak, he's a
he's
guy
legit.
that you would not want to trade. So
No.
it's I think you might be right with that. Yeah, increase that trade value, but if he's playing good, why would you want to trade that at that point? Like we finally got him back to where he is now. I think if he comes back and he plays
Because
like
there's
crap,
always that worry of re-injury,
yeah, no,
especially with back issues and a guy that plays above the rim the way that MPJ does.
hmm
Like that's what scares me. He is so bouncy and with a bad back, that's never a good
hmm
combination.
and see the thing about him is I feel he needs to pull a Derrick Rose and readjust his style of play. I know you love
Yeah.
to play above the rim, like you said, but if it's going to be what we always say, health is wealth, right?
Yes.
So if it's going to be something that's going to affect your career, affect you from getting another contract after this max deal's done and over with, after you're done getting paid from this deal, and you hurt yourself, well, you might not see another contract like this ever again. So you need to think at least 5 years ahead. And he can shoot. He can play that style of game. He doesn't have to be a dunker. He doesn't have to be this crazy above the rim kind of guy. If he wants to at least have a longer career than he would being, that athletic freak that he can showcase, but it's a matter of do you want longevity or do you want the highlight of the night? Do you want to be on SportsCenter's top 10? What is it? What is it going to be? Do you want the longevity or do you want that the fame pretty much?
Right. No, I 100% agree. Um, but to me, honestly, I still don't like him being traded at the minimum trade value that you're going to get for him.
Yeah.
I still would much rather and like I said, you have the inside knowledge. The Nuggets know exactly how bad that back injury is. The rest of us, we're just kind of giving speculation. We're talking about
Mhm.
how typically what happens with previous. We don't really know how bad it is. It seems to be pretty bad if you had to get surgery 9 games in and miss an entire year. That's pretty bad. I mean, they had to do some serious work if it took you an entire year to get back from back surgery. So
Mhm.
that terrifies me. And now, if he's able to change his game, like you said, if he's able to change his game, play less, play below the rim, work more around the perimeter with that absolutely sweet stroke he has, I would be a lot less hesitant. And I'd be a lot less likely to trade him if that's the case. But if he wants to continue to play the game the way he plays the game right now, I would definitely be looking to find somebody to trade him to once he's actually reestablished that trade value.
Yeah,
But
the thing about MPJ is he's young. Is
yes,
he
he's
gonna
only
be
24.
mature enough to actually think like that? I know Derrick Rose, when he first had his injuries, when his injuries started piling up, it wasn't until what, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, or
Yeah.
after he left Chicago, where he decided, all right, I'm gonna
Yep.
play a different kind of style. He was still trying to be that hyper athletic, crazy Russell
Yep.
Westbrook kind of player. Now MPJ isn't, on that level of energy, but for a big guy, he does bring it energy
He's
wise.
damn good. Like he's a
And
legit superstar.
and if he can play more skill basketball, like you said, around the perimeter with his handle and his shooting, instead of being, driving to the lane as much and trying to hammer it down on everyone's head, then we can at least keep him healthy enough. Now, I know, like I said, he's young. I don't know if he's going to be really that committed to changing his entire game around just for his health. I do think he still wants to be that flashy kind of player who's on your every other highlight. But
Yeah.
for the better part of that, for at least longevity wise, he has to understand that game needs to be way less out into the perimeter.
Yeah, he's just like any other 24-year-old. He wants to be on the poster in the kids' room. That's all
Yeah.
he's worried about. But moving on from people we don't want to get rid of to people that we don't have to get rid of anybody to pick up. Let's talk about the NBA free agent targets of the Nuggets and who you like, dislike, and what kind of contract you would give each of these guys. I'm gonna give you names. You let me know how you
Hmm.
feel about them. First off,
Well,
go ahead.
we'll go ahead. Or Jinx. I like these names that you put in there. There's one name I really like, and there's one name I really don't like. That's
All
all
right.
I'm
Well,
gonna say.
let's jump into the first one here. Dante DiVincenzo. What do you like, dislike, and if you like him, what kind of contract would you give?
Now that's the name I like that I didn't think of last week or last show when we said Gary Harris. We couldn't think of names, and I like that you brought Dante DiVincenzo. This guy's an absolute baller from his Villanova days, a straight hustle. And that's what the Nuggets need. When it comes to defense, you want to start with the hustle. And Dante DiVincenzo brings hustle night in and night out. He has a nice three ball, and he's young. You want to bring more youth, vice versa of bringing back Jeff Green, bringing in Danny Green. You need your young guys as much as you need your veterans. It's a young man's game. And Dante DiVincenzo, he reminds me of you remember Matthew Dellavedova from
Yes.
Cleveland? Yeah, that's who he reminds me of. He's not the best defender, but you can tell that he's gonna bring his energy, and he's not gonna give up on a play. Even though he's not an elite Marcus Smart defender, he's damn good. He's above average, that's for sure.
Yes.
And he's not gonna give up on a play, and you need guys like that.
All effort. Yes.
Now I see. No, you want me to tell you the name that I don't like that you
Real
put down
quick,
on
what
him?
kind of contract would you give DiVincenzo?
Oh. I'm not in management. I don't know how these things work.
I'm saying
Th-
like I don't need
one
like specific numbers. Like, would you give him a lower contract, vet minimum, or would you be willing to give him a little bit more if you needed to get him from another team?
Oh, well, I was gonna hit you with the Doctor Evil, $1 million. No, no,
$1 million.
he's way more than that. I just thought it
Yes,
was the right time to hit you with that. But
that was good.
at least, not a minimum. He's worth he's worth more than a minimum deal. He's young. He's in for his money. I'd at least be looking around, somewhat of a contract that we gave Will. I think Will was making
About 14.
50, yeah, 14, 15 million a year. And, I don't know
Yeah.
how many years you want to give him. I'm pretty sure DiVincenzo, as we were talking about with MPJ, young guys, they not really used to bouncing around like that. So he might
Yep.
want to have that, somewhat at least long-term deal where it's 2 to 3 years. Uh,
Yeah. I'd say
yeah,
somewhere between 2 to 4, somewhere around 12 to 14 million a year. Perfect.
Yeah, he's a bench guy. You're not paying your bench guy too much, and
Right.
you opened up some money with that JaMychal Green trade, and maybe he'd be one of those guys that money could go to. Of the four names you listed, I would have no problem bringing Dante DiVincenzo here.
Nice. So next up, one that we've talked about ad nauseum, and I think we both agree he needs to be here. But how about DeMarcus Cousins?
Without a doubt, that's unanimous. I think everyone in Nuggets Nation believes that DeMarcus Cousins is a unanimous name that you want to bring back. It's a must. You saw what he brought in the playoffs. That game 5 where the Nuggets blew that 8-point lead, where they came in that fourth quarter, they were leading by 8 points and ended up losing by 4. DeMarcus Cousins was legitimately the best player outside of Nikola Jokic,
without
where
a doubt.
I believe he went 7 for 7, something like that. Didn't miss a
Yeah,
shot, and
stupid.
that game alone increased his value for this upcoming season. And so he might be a bidding war from other teams because they saw what DeMarcus can still do on the court post injury. So that's going to be our main problem. Not if DeMarcus Cousins wants to come here, it's if someone offers him something that we can't match. And that's
Right.
my biggest worry.
Yeah, I think with DeMarcus, I agree. He needs to be here. I think this is where you use that $8.2 million exception because you're definitely going to have to pay him more than the $4.5 million you paid him last year. A well portion of it because he wasn't even here for the full season. So you're definitely going to have to give him a raise to keep him. I think that he loves Mike Malone enough. He's willing to take a little bit of a haircut. So
A
they're
haircut.
not going to be able to like get him for like 6 or 7 million, but I think somewhere in the 8 to 9 million a year range for maybe 2 years. Give him a player option for next year, and then a 1 year guaranteed contract. I think he would stay. I think in those numbers he would stay because he sees the potential of this team and what
Hmm.
they can do once they get back some of these guys, and he's seeing these moves that are being made. He sees that they're trying to capitalize on this championship window. So I do think that DeMarcus Cousins is a viable target and one that I do believe will stay.
Yeah. And that has to be, other than OG Anunoby, DeMarcus Cousins is a priority. Now, I think it should be more of a priority than OG Anunoby because it's a little bit more realistic. You have DeMarcus here. He's built that relationship with Mike Malone, like you were saying. And I don't know if he's going to take that pay cut, but he might be willing to just because of how much he appreciates Mike Malone, not just as a coach, but as a person. And I think that would be the more realistic uh, decision, at least when it comes to DeMarcus Cousins and OG Anunoby as those top priorities for this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should definitely be the top two priorities. The next one I think would be an under the radar move that I think would be absolutely epic to this team, both on the court and in the locker room, because we all know how much we loved our Gary Harris while he was here. So, what do you feel about Gary Harris? Me, I like him. I want him here, and I think he could come for really cheap.
Hmm. And we were talking about it in the last show that bring a guy who you're familiar with, who knows this offense, and you move on from Will Barton, but you bring back Gary Harris, who debatably was probably more loved than Will
I,
Barton was.
I think at least in the locker room.
Yeah, Gary Harris was a glue guy. He brought things together with the offense, with the defense, and he was a fan favorite when he was here. Gary Harris is a name that you think of, you think you wish he stayed. Especially when Jamal got hurt. I was thinking this playoffs and the last playoffs, like, man, I miss Gary Harris so damn much because
Yes,
what he could have brought to this team, and he was exactly what we were missing. Now I
yes,
know injuries affected him, it affected his play his last couple of years playing with us, but now it seems that he's rehabbed well. He had a good year in Orlando, even though the team wasn't good. Gary Harris was one of the very few bright spots for that team. You bring him back and you bring a more mature Gary Harris, not this young guy who's been there and done that. He's been through those ropes. And you think you bring him back, and this team, that's an upgrade right there automatically for your bench.
yeah, and I think you get a newly motivated Gary Harris because he had to sit there and toil in Orlando in that mediocrity for all of this time since that Aaron Gordon trade. So I think he comes with that with a renewed energy, a renewed confidence, and just absolutely dominates in his role, which is to be that wing defender, hit a couple of threes, play defense, and just keep this team moving when Jokic and Murray are off the floor and on the bench. So I 100% agree. We're going to skip over this last one because we're starting to run a little bit at a time, and I know you want to talk about the draft.
Hmm.
Excuse me. So moving on to the draft is looming. Who do you believe is going to be the likely target if the Nuggets keep their two top picks in the first round?
The who they're aiming for, the names?
Yeah. What players do you believe will be picked if they make the picks?
Well, there's two Jalen Williams in this draft. I think they should take both of them. No, I'm just playing. But that would be awesome to draft two players with the same name. Now I don't know how that would work when you're playing
Right.
with them on the floor. They probably no one,
Have
Mike
to have
Malone couldn't play.
nicknames.
Mike Malone couldn't play both of them on the floor at the same time
Right.
due to confusion, probably. But
Right.
there's two Jalen Williams in the draft, and I want them to end up getting the Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, and
Okay.
he's a 6'7", I believe. Hold on, I had my mock draft up. Let me look at that real quick. But he's a 6'7" guard, and you need help in the backcourt, obviously. He brings defense. He's long, and that's what you need. I believe the Nuggets might, if they make a trade with Philadelphia, they might throw one of their picks away if we're getting, the 23rd. I do think we're getting 21st overall. I think the 21st overall makes a difference in the 23rd. So I don't know if the Nuggets are going to get both picks, but if they were to get, uh, two players, I think that 21st overall pick should go to the Nikola Jovic. He's a big guy, and what would be more awesome than having two players with the same name, or
Right.
pretty damn near,
It
So
looks like, excuse me, looking through these mock drafts, it looks like Jalen Williams, the one from Santa Clara, is actually going in around the 20 to 23 area, which
mm,
is right where the Nuggets sit with their first pick. So
yeah,
it's a legitimate target.
no, for sure. And I was critiquing them because I don't want to say a name where it's out of our reach, but I was going through here, and tell me if this doesn't make you feel old, if you already don't feel old yet. But Ron Harper Jr. is in the draft this year, and he's 22 years old. I thought I hear that name, I thought he'd be like 19, 18. But Ron
Right.
Harper Jr. is in the draft, and the youngest kid in the draft this year, I believe, was born in 2003. So
Right.
how does
I
that
don't need
feel?
help feeling old, my guy. I was born in the 80s.
Oh man, it just it's crazy, bro, to think that these guys are kids,
Yes.
legitimate kids who are what gigantors, just
Yes.
unbelievably, with all due respect, athletic freaks.
Exactly. I mean, the way the human body has evolved, especially in the NBA, is absolutely insane. Everything's bigger, faster, stronger. Like, where is the end point? Where do humans stop growing? Do we stop growing? Are we gonna have, like, in 50 years, like, 10-foot people because they gotta have now a 15-foot freaking basket goal in the NBA because everybody's 10 foot and above?
Man,
Like, it's insane to
man,
think.
that would piss me off, man. That would that would really piss me off because then you're going, everyone wants to. When you're at home, you want to have when you're playing football, you got to have the official NFL football, right? You're playing ball, you got to have this that. Then everyone's gonna want to be playing with the 15 hoop rim. You're gonna go to all the gyms, all the rec centers, and I'm sorry, you're not making a shot consistently on a 15-foot rim, and that would just, I think, ruin the whole game, bro. It would ruin everything.
Right. So how about another name? How about Bryce McGowan from Nebraska?
Well, I think that would make a lot of fans happy because Nebraska being our neighbor, the state that we border. There's a lot of Nebraska fans, or not a fan, Bronco fans in Nebraska, believe it or not. It's a regional area. I think people would love it, at least for fan interest. I haven't really paid too much attention to Nebraska basketball this last year, but it would be fun for fan interest to bring a guy like that from Nebraska, CU, CSU, any of those regional colleges. It's always fun for at least
Right.
the fan perspective.
Yeah. I like McGowan's offensive potential, but here is what Kevin O'Connor of Mile High Sports had to say was sloppy defender without technique, desire, or awareness at the college level. That's a red flag for me.
Hmm.
So the last thing the Nuggets need is another offense first player. We have almost ad nauseum talked about how the Nuggets need defense. So for me, I'm not so high on McGowan's. I get the interest, the jersey sales, things of that nature, but I'm not so high on him. How about another name, Ty Ty Washington, guard out of
Hmm.
Kentucky?
That's a 10 out of 10 for name right there. Ty.
Right?
Ty, man. I've never heard that.
I wonder how
Out of
many people
Washington.
called him Titty.
oh,
Sorry, I couldn't help
oh.
myself.
If is he 6'10"? Or he's up there. I know he's a tall
He's
guy. I don't know
6'3".
how. Oh, 6'3".
Ty
Still,
Washington 6'3".
6'3" is pretty big for a human. That's what's impressive about the NBA because you're a dwarf if you're 6'3"
Right.
in the NBA.
I'm a dwarf.
But
I'm 6'4", and I get dwarfed by NBA players.
bro, and I wouldn't call a 6'3" guy, a 6'4" guy titty. All right, so I'm pretty sure that over under on him being called titty when he was younger was at least at half 0.5. I'm taking the under on it. I'm pretty sure no
He
one
said
call him
0.
titty.
I'm taking the under. I'm
No
gonna have
one
to
did.
ask him someday. Sorry, I'm just that guy. I got to ask those questions. But yeah, I like Ty. I think he would be a true point guard and
Mm,
allow Jamal Murray to slide over into more of a guard or forward
combo
position.
guard, combo
Yeah,
guard
combo
positions.
guard, something like that, and allow him to just really go off and have more of those 50-point nights. So I think, and I like his defense at Kentucky. We all know if you're at Kentucky and you don't play defense, you don't play at Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
So he's obviously at least got to have effort on that side of the ball. So I think those two factors would put him in, and I wouldn't mind him at number 21 overall. Uh, my personal favorite, though, I like this guy, Blake Wesley, the guard out of Notre Dame.
hmm
I really, really like this kid. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I like how you brought that Kentucky thing. If you play at Kentucky, you don't play defense, and you don't play at Kentucky. I feel with Notre Dame, if you don't play with effort, you don't play at Notre Dame, and that doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, or any collegiate sport. There's a pride that the Fighting Irish bring in whatever kind of sport they're competing in, and I would love that kind of mentality and attitude to come with the Nuggets. What would you say his name was? Bryce?
Blake Wesley.
Blake Wesley. Yeah, so if you could bring a Notre Dame guy to this team, it kind of inspires the grit. Notre Dame, they remind me of the Memphis Grizzlies with the grind, of college basketball. They have that little grindhouse and grit mentality. And I think the Nuggets, you can bring that over. You got all the offense in place. If you can have that grit kind of mentality on the defensive side of the ball, this sky's the limit, and no one's stopping this team.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the style of game that Blake plays. He's that slashing guard type player, and that is the one player that this Nuggets team does not have on their roster.
hmm
It also, with this roster, they wouldn't have to thrust him into a superstar role before he's ready. He does need a little bit of refining in his game, both on the offensive and defensive ends. But I think he is still serviceable and could play a Bones Highland type role, that energy off the bench his first year or two, and give that added scoring to the bench, plus a guy that is willing on the defensive end. He's not a great defender, but I think with just a little bit of tweaking of his technique and keeping that will and that desire to play defense will provide a boon to the defensive side and really create a 3 and D player that the Nuggets want without
hmm
having to give up anything other than their draft selection to get them. So, I,
Definitely.
but we've also talked about this. We're talking about what if they do keep them. Do you see the mentality of the F them picks on par with the LA Rams coming over to the Nuggets, or do you think they keep them in such a deep draft?
If they have that mentality of screw those picks, flip them the double bird on all the draft picks, then that has to be coming from ownership, from the Cronkies.
Yes.
I don't think Calvin Booth wants
No.
to move in that direction and selling his picks. But if they do, it's going to be from ownership. But if they do sell those picks, I do see a lot of spending in free agency. I do see, because if you don't draft anybody, then how are you going to acquire players? It's either the draft or
Exactly.
free agency. So if they're not drafting players, they're gonna be it'll be a lot of free agency talks. They're gonna be talking to a lot of agents, and so
Yes.
I do think they keep the picks though. But if they was to go a different route, see a lot of new faces that you haven't seen before on
Yes.
this team.
You will. I agree. So yeah, I do think that I believe they say F them picks.
Mm,
I honestly see the writing
mm.
on the wall. I do believe that they are going to give the double bird to all of the picks, and they're just going to give them all the way to get superstars to build as much as they can around. Because again, this is the same ownership group that just watched their football team defy the odds in a league that everybody talked about how you have to build through the draft. You
Mhm.
got to keep all them picks. Them picks are invaluable. Well, they just went off and won a Super Bowl by saying F them picks. Now, in a league that you don't need as many superstars, you don't have to have a full team the way that you do in the NFL. You just need a handful of really, really good players and three that are just otherworldly. You can win a championship with that in the NBA. So if they're like, why do I need 15 picks if I don't need 15 picks in the NFL, why do I need 15 picks in the NBA? So
Yeah.
to me personally, I see an F them picks. I am excited to see which one of us is right. I'm looking forward to seeing which one it ends up being because either way, I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic offseason for the Nuggets. Whether they keep the picks, whether they F them picks, I think it's going to be a great offseason. And I think we're all going to have a whole lot of fun here coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the draft's on Thursday.
Yes.
So next week's show gonna be a lot of draft talk. Into the
Yes.
crystal ball and see what the future lies ahead of us. I'm excited.
Yes. I agree. I'm extremely excited about it. So, y'all keep that in mind. We will be back here again next Saturday, same time, 5 to 6 p.m. every week. Either Santiago will be here in studio or at home. Either way, we all have fun. We all enjoy it. So, I can't tell you which one it'll be at this point, but he'll be one or the other right here with me talking about Nuggets every Saturday. So, make sure you tune in right here on the Answer is 42 Media Network. I think we've done a pretty dang good show. Great place to wrap it up here, my guy. Anything you want to plug before we go?
Uh, Make sure you eat all your vitamins.
I like it.
Vitamins are good.
Vitamins are good for you. Perfect. Perfect
I
way to
really
leave it
don't know.
on.
I really don't know.
You're good, my guy. Make sure you check out all the links at the bottom. You got our Twitter right here. We're almost at 1,600. Come on, give us a follow. Get us to that 1,600 so we can get on to our goal of 2,000 before 4th of July. So make sure you hit us up on Twitter. That's where you get most of the activity from me and the rest of our peoples here. It's Adam Motto is balling, right? That's
Yeah,
yours.
yeah.
Got to remember to put that down there so everybody has it. Also
I
in the
got you.
description, there is a link to every single one of our social media platforms. We are on everything from Twitch to Twitter to YouTube. We're there. The links are in the description. Just click on them. Click the subscribe or the follow. Click the little bell icon. That way you know whenever we go live, every time we go live, and you don't miss any of this great content. We have more and more coming for y'all. We have some big things coming down the pipeline. So make sure you stay tuned for those announcements. For the Answer is 42 and Nug Life Podcast, I am your host, Dan Wetstein. That is my co-host, Amado Santiago Salazar. And we appreciate y'all, but never, ever question the blue.